I think McVay will have a game plan for this, and I think we're not going to see the same Dak that we saw last week. We might for a while, but Dak is kind of up and down, so he's capable, but it's going to take all of that and more. I think Zeke will be shut down a little bit more than he's used to coming into that Rams front. So I look for Dallas to struggle a little bit more offensively than they have the past couple of weeks. And I think the Rams and Todd Gurley, and they just have enough there, just have enough pieces that I think they're the eventual winners in this game.
I'm going to go the other way again. I'm going to go with Dallas in this game, and this is basically just a gut feel. I haven't been on Goff really all year. I feel like once Cooper Kupp got hurt, it sort of took his security blanket away, and he's really just felt sort of lost of just kind of trying to find his footing. They got 2 good wins at the end of the year, but again, something we talked about 3 episodes ago, they should have got those wins. They beat 2 bad teams in their division in Arizona and the 49ers, and now all of a sudden they're going to have to step up, and I think a little bit of what I talked about with Kansas City. Here you have a team, another dominant regular season. Sean McVay has been in the news with all these coaching hires that have gone on, kind of being this new guy. Everybody's looking for the next Sean McVay. Well, Sean McVay has to win something first as well. He's had great regular seasons, but now you come into this game, you're going to step up in competition. You're playing a team that just had a game where it was sort of do or die, and now they sort of have that momentum going, and you've been sitting at home, and you really haven't been playing your best football for the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season. And again, all that pressure could fall on Jared Goff. If they come out, if he struggles, if he throws an early interception, if he really is struggling accuracy-wise in this game, if Dallas can come out and keep Cooks in check and do a good job containing Gurley, then Dallas can hang around in this game. And again, the longer Dallas hangs around, the more pressure that's going to be put on Jared Goff. And from what I've seen so far, I just don't have a lot of trust in him yet at this point. He may prove me wrong, and he may come out Saturday night and put together a great game, and they may win by double figures. But I'm going to go with the team I feel like has a little bit more momentum at this point. They have a similar style and running back that can control the game. I think Dak can just make more plays, especially with his legs, to move the sticks and get those crucial third down pickups. So I'll take Dallas on Saturday night. You've got the Rams, so 2 games there we've differed on. That's always fun. So let's go to Sunday. It'll be the Los Angeles Chargers traveling to the Patriots. The Chargers have been road warriors, Eric, this year. You heard it talked about on the broadcast with Jim Nantz that every time they've gotten on a plane, they just continue to find ways to win. Now they'll travel to New England. Brady's 7-0 all-time versus Rivers. I believe Brady and the Patriots are 11-1 in this divisional round, so it feels like the Chargers have their backs against the wall, but this might not be the same type of Patriots team that we've seen in the past. So does this Patriots team, do they have the juice this year to make a run, or is this your year that Rivers breaks through versus Brady?
I honestly have to stick with the fact of what I said a couple weeks ago, that I really felt like of the 2 teams that were in the Super Bowl, they would come from the 4 teams that didn't play last week. And that would mean I need to be high on the Patriots beating the Chargers. Now, with that being said, I think this is the hardest game on the slate this weekend for me to make a pick in, because I just really don't know. It's almost a coin flip. I think you could talk me into one way or the other. But I think the Patriots got a little bit of rest. Again, you got an older team here. You've got an older roster. I think the rest was good for the Patriots. A team like the Rams, I talked about the rest because I feel like it let them regroup. They got through their season. They did what they wanted to accomplish in terms of winning that division. 13-3 was a good record. Letting them rest and get ready for a Dallas team that's going to come in and punch them in the mouth is a good thing for a younger team. Now with this Patriots team, I'm talking about rest because they're an older roster. You've got a quarterback who's 40 plus. You've got a tight end who's struggling to stay healthy. You've got a guy like Edelman who's been banged around his whole career. You've got pieces on that team that this will really benefit. And I think it gives them and Bill Belichick a chance to look at everything the Chargers have done over the past few weeks to get to this position and put a game plan in place. I'm really high on the Chargers. If you said Monday that the Chargers won by 15 points, I wouldn't be too surprised about that if I didn't watch the game. I'd believe you. But I think the Patriots will come in to Foxborough. I think they'll take care of business at home, and it'll be another disappointment for these Chargers. They just seem to do that for their fans. They just seem to get to a point where they're almost ready and they can't break through. You even look at last week how they almost let that big lead slip away. I just think Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, I think they'll be ready, and I think the Patriots will find a way.
I agree with you on this game. I think this was the hardest game for me to pick because we talked about some of the stats in the beginning, some of the trends that have been there, but I just haven't seen enough from the Patriots to just feel good about them because I feel like when they lost Josh Gordon, it took another weapon away. Now we're sitting there saying, okay, Gronk has looked bad. He hasn't been as dominant. You saw it come into the end of that Pittsburgh game. Brady was trying to force the ball to him, and there was just nowhere to put it. He wasn't getting separation. And this Chargers team has another candidate for Defensive Rookie of the Year in Derwin James, who I think can match up and take Gronk out of this game. So now you're very dependent on a guy like James White and Edelman because you really haven't gotten anything from Hogan all year. Then you're talking about, okay, can you really depend on a guy like Philip Dorsett to give you consistent production to get you 5, 6, 7 catches? I just don't see that. And Cordero Patterson has just been more of a gadget guy, and they just don't trust him to give him a lot of responsibility outside of a few plays here and there. And then when they got banged up at running back, they were using him in that position. So to me, it feels like when I look at this Chargers team, they're just as complete as any team out there. Yeah, Melvin Gordon is a little bit banged up, but he was banged up on Sunday, and they still found a way to come in and put 23 points on the team that we thought had the best defense in the NFL. I think the Chargers' game plan will be completely different. So whatever the Patriots saw on film last week, I think the Chargers are going to scrap that. I think they'll be more aggressive offensively because they'll know that they have to take some chances versus Brady and that they can versus that Patriots defense where they just couldn't versus Baltimore. Where Baltimore, if you give them an opportunity and Phillip Rivers is putting the ball out there and turning it over, it gives Lamar Jackson a chance. Where with the Patriots, I don't think, especially with their pass rush, I don't think that puts a lot of fear into this Chargers team. And look, they've gone all year and proved that they can win on the road. They've gotten some big road wins. They came back against Pittsburgh. They went to Seattle and got a big win. Yeah, they got beat by Baltimore at home, but Baltimore was the team that was sort of more desperate and came in with stuff that a lot of teams just hadn't seen, and they gave pretty much everybody trouble in the regular season. Second time around, the Chargers took care of business. I just think you saw that the Chargers have an ability to adapt. So as much as I like to go with trends in history, I got to go with the eye test here, and I'm going to take the Chargers to upset the Patriots Sunday in the early game. So let's take it to the last game. And once again, Eric, your Eagles are in the spotlight in that late afternoon Sunday game. This time, though, it may be the most difficult challenge of this Nick Foles run that he's been on over the last 2 years. He will travel to New Orleans to play the number 1 seeded Saints at home in the Dome. So, Eric, this Eagles team, they went into New Orleans earlier this year in Week 10, and they got absolutely destroyed, 48-7. The Saints are going to be well rested, but the Eagles are riding this 4-game win streak. So is this where the Nick Foles magic runs out, or can he extend it on Sunday?
This is where I felt like everything we talked about in segment 1 regarding Nick Foles and the Eagles might have been all conjecture and for no reason. And that's not to knock your question, but I knew that this question was coming in segment 2, and I got to tell you, it ends now. Last week, I was back and forth between my head and my heart, and honestly, had the Bears not missed that kick, I would have been right. The Eagles would have been out already. But they only put up 16 points against the Bears. Now they're going in to play a Saints team who maybe aren't great defensively, have given up points here and there throughout the year, and every now and then don't play well offensively like when they played the Cowboys. But most of the year, you're looking at a Saints team that averaged over 35 points a game. They're going to absolutely lay it on the Eagles this weekend. This is the easiest game of the 4 to pick. The Saints win this game by 10 plus. I know the line is actually -8. I really want the Eagles to win in my heart, but Justin, it's not going to happen. The Nick Foles magic ends now, and I'm not even saying his magic ends in the sense that it's going to be his fault. I just think this team overall is not ready now for this level of playoff action. So whether it's this week or next week or whatever, they're not going to the Super Bowl. They're not going to win another one. And the Saints will make sure right now that doesn't happen.
Well, look, I had to give you some kind of hypothetical scenario in segment 1. I mean, that's kind of been the hot topic, but I agree with you. I think this week it ends for this team, and there may have been a pathway to win. But the fact that Ted Ginn Jr. has come back and now the Saints aren't going to be as dependent on guys like Traquan Smith or Kirkwood or some of these really young guys that sort of got them in trouble, especially in that game at Dallas where basically Dallas was like, okay, we're just going to make sure that we stop Michael Thomas and we're going to make you go somewhere else with the football because we don't think your other guys can beat us in man coverage. And that's really what happened. Now they've sort of got more weapons, more opportunity. Kamara's healthy. Ingram's healthy. They're going to have their full complement of guys. Again, part of the question was, if Nick Foles can pull off a miracle and somehow win, now how does that change the conversation? But I think for Eagle fans, they may not even have to deal with that, because I think if all goes right, the Saints should take care of business on Sunday. But again, with Nick Foles, it just seems like things seem to happen in games that keep them in it, and then they play pressure-free. There is absolutely no pressure. There is no one giving them any chance to win. And once again, the Saints are at home. And if they can find a way to hang around and put some pressure on, the home crowd will get restless. We saw it happen in Baltimore, that even as good as Lamar Jackson played, it didn't take long for that fan base to start to turn on him and the boo birds to come out and the pressure to start to mount. Look, I'm not going to pick the Eagles, but I think that there is a pathway. There's always a pathway. That's why it's Any Given Sunday. We come on the show and talk about it every weekend, how there's a game that we thought there was a team that had no chance in hell, and somehow they find a way. Most of these teams are only one injury away from things being over. So I think the Saints will win, but I think there's always a very slight chance that the Eagles could pull the upset, just like I think in any of these games. I think it's a flip of a coin. Again, one game-changing play, one game-changing injury, everything can change. But I think it'll be the Saints on Sunday evening that'll be moving on to the NFC Championship round that we'll have covered next week on the show. So, Eric, let's talk about a little bit more NFL news. A lot of NFL hires have been happening, and some of them have gotten a lot of questions. So the first one that seems to be getting the most criticism is all of a sudden Cliff Kingsbury, who looked like he was going to be the offensive coordinator for USC. Then USC was reported to be blocking him from interviewing. And all of a sudden now he's named the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. So is he the right guy for this Cardinals team?
Well, it's certainly going to be a risk. You have a head coach coming straight out of college, and that hasn't been done in 5 years. 2014 was the last time a coach came directly from the college ranks to the NFL. But I think Arizona, as we've talked about, they needed a culture shift. They needed something different to happen there. And there's going to be a couple of years of rebuilding. Obviously, they've got their quarterback now, they believe. Hopefully, David Johnson can have a better year next year and in the future. There's going to have to be a need at wide receiver to make some changes. Fitzgerald isn't going to be there forever. I don't know what they think, but he's not going to be around forever, as good as he is. And so maybe this is just the guy that moves the needle for that organization and puts their culture in a different space. And for them, offensively, I mean, this is a guy that helped develop Patrick Mahomes and other quarterbacks that are in the league right now. So I think they feel like he can do something with Josh Rosen, and if that works out well, they change offensively. They become a different team. They score more points. They can rebuild that Arizona defense that really 5 to 10 years ago used to be pretty good. Who knows? It's hard to say if it's going to be a good move, but there's a lot of times coaches making that jump directly from college to being a head coach in the NFL, it doesn't work out. So I think there's a good bit of risk here too.
Yeah, definitely a risky move, but Arizona feels like the one team that could sort of take that risk. They just have to be willing to give him a chance. They can't do this 1 year and done and move on stuff. Look, this roster is still bad. It's still a bad roster. You talked about some of the positions. They desperately need probably 2 wide receivers. They really don't have. They're still playing Gresham at tight end, for God's sake, at times. I mean, how long has that man been in the league? They need help there. Their offensive line's not very good. And their defense is basically Patrick Peterson, and that's about it. So they have a lot of holes that they have to fill, and it doesn't matter how innovative a guy is. If you don't put some decent players around him, he's going to struggle. He's going to look bad. So I hope that they have a plan in place to at least give him 3 years or so to come in and have a chance to work with Rosen, get him going, and start to fix some of the issues that they have. They have the number 1 pick. If I was them, I would be looking to trade that thing. Haskins has already come out and declared, get one of these needy teams, the Giants, the Broncos, Jaguars, one of these teams that may potentially want to move up, get some additional picks and start to try to fix your roster within the next 2 years. That's really what this Cardinals team should be focusing on, because I don't think they're ever going to see how good of an offensive mind he can be until they address some of those issues. The Browns, Eric, they had another hire that seemed to be a head scratcher. They decided to go ahead and promote Freddie Kitchens to their head coaching position. So is this just another Browns type move, or do you like the fact that they're staying in-house with a guy that had some momentum and seems to have some chemistry with Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, I think for them, being that Baker Mayfield looks like the best guy they've drafted in a decade,